I'm your host, Kimberly Newton-Nichols, and this is Something's Coming Up. Thank you for joining me once again, where we reach one, teach one, save one. However we do it because something's coming up. We purge it out. So today's topic, we will be talking about equality, transitions, and being treated with love and respect at all costs. My guest today, Kayleigh Scott, and I'm honored to have her. I thank you for coming and sitting with me and being willing to share your story, your way, under your terms. I know this won't be easy for you. I am grateful that you're willing to use your voice to help someone. So I want you to just introduce yourself pretty much.
Okay.
And let people know a little bit of where you went to school. And you tell them how we met, because I'm going to tell them what I was saying when I met you. So this is, I don't want to say ex-coworker. I can't say that. We'll be back.
That's right. We'll be back.
We'll be back.
We'll be back.
Okay. So we'll highlight you on that later, but we will be back. So go ahead and tell them a little bit about yourself.
Well, first and foremost, again, I'd like to thank you for the invite out onto your show.
Okay.
It's exciting to be able to share my story with a new platform.
Okay.
So my name is Kayleigh Scott, but it didn't always used to be. Growing up, my name used to be Kyle.
Okay.
And where do I even start?
Where do you start?
Where do I start? Growing up, I knew something was different about me.
Okay.
You know, growing up, parents start to, push the given narrative on you. You know, my parents, they bought me the Legos and they bought me all the army toys, and my dad used to dress me up as a cop for Halloween as a kid, and and just growing up, I was a boy. That's what I was, and I grew up in more of a difficult household.
Where was home for you? Where did you live?
I'm from Milton, Vermont.
Milton, Vermont.
Milton, Vermont is the town where I'm from. And it was a long journey. Just growing up, just living as a boy, and early on in my life, I started to figure out that things were different. These clothes don't feel right. These toys don't feel right.
At what age would you say you first noticed that?
I was probably about nine when I started to realize that I don't think I'm a boy. Yeah.
And I just want to say, you're going to be teaching me. So if I have a question and it seems odd, I'm asking a question because I don't know and I want to learn.
Yeah,
okay?
Absolutely.
So that's what this is about, a teaching moment. And also for someone else who's going through this, who doesn't have a platform and think they're alone.
Of course.
So I can't stress that enough. It's to let people know these things happen, and they happen, and people are struggling and they don't have a voice. And I want to thank you again for sharing your voice. So your home consists of mom, dad, you,
and my sister. Home was weird growing up. I don't think my parents were always happy with each other. When I was really young, when I was about 7, my parents separated for about a year.
Okay.
I don't remember a lot from it. I know that me, my mom, and my sister lived with my grandma and grandpa for about a year, but those memories are really vague, like a lot of memories from my childhood.
Okay.
There's some stress that came in those early years, and I feel like my mind is kind of just blocked out.
That's what I was going to ask you.
A lot of that. I know that growing up, my dad, got angry pretty easily. He wasn't super abusive or anything, but sometimes we'd get hit, and sometimes it would be a little excessive. I remember crying a lot as a kid. I don't really remember much else after that. I know my mom was a scared person. I feel like she was more or less scared of my dad. He was a heavy lifter. He was a lifter, like
bodybuilding,
lifting weights.
Okay.
Bodybuilding, powerlifting and such.
Okay.
My dad's been a cop, for over 30 years.
Okay. So that's where the strictness will come in, and
very, very strict, disciplined household. I come from a long bloodline of those who served in the military.
Okay.
My dad was in the Marine Corps. His father in the Air Force, and then retired with New York State Corrections. After my dad got out of the Marine Corps, he was a correctional officer.
So the whole line is of discipline and order.
Of discipline, and even far back on my dad's side and my mom's side too. My mom's a Navy brat. She was born in Key West on the Naval Air Station. My grandfather's a retired Navy commander. So she spent the first 8 years of her life traveling around the world. From she's born in Key West and then lived in Rota, Spain, and in London, and all
now,
over
did your
the US.
family, your immediate family, travel a lot, or
No.
were he was already finished with that?
Yeah, my grandfather retired in early 80s, so well before my time. My mom was just a kid.
Okay.
Just things weren't always the nicest at home.
Okay.
I have no doubt that my parents tried to provide the best household for their kids. Was it the best household? Not always.
Okay.
But I know that there was always some effort in that.
But they do probably better than their parents did, or they try, but sometimes they fall short and things happen.
I think with my mom, she had a pretty good house growing up.
Okay.
My grandfather is a pretty wise man. Both of my mom's parents are recovering alcoholics. So
Your mom's parents? Okay.
Yeah, my mom's parents, my grandparents on my mom's side, they're both recovering alcoholics. And my grandfather came back from that and learned from AA and gave back, and he ended up becoming a very influential drug and alcohol counselor for the state. Okay. And he worked with rehabilitation programs. My grandmother did too. They helped run a recovery center up in the mountains. Like that's
wow,
incredible.
that is a big deal.
That's incredible, and I know that my grandfather has been a very influential person in my life, and he's been able to provide guidance. And, he's been able
and
to
they're still a part of your life?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they are. Pronouns are a new thing to them, and they slip up, but I know that their job is to love, not to judge.
Okay.
And
they
prove very well in that.
Major, especially knowing the background and that they're supportive. Absolutely. So that's absolutely, literally, like really a blessing. Because when you think of military and police and corrections in all in one in that family, you don't envision, you just envision stern and strict and you not so much understanding. And not that they're not capable, it's just that they're used to things done a certain way and this is what it is.
Yeah, of
so
course.
The fact that they're your grandparents even, and the willingness to open up and accept their grandchild, period, with no labels, is major.
Even my dad's father, he's been following Catholic faith, since childhood, and he retired with New York State Corrections. Even he, very accepting. I still talk to him. He addresses me as his granddaughter.
Okay.
Gets my name wrong a lot. Happens.
As did I. It's Kayleigh, and I go Kayleigh.
Kayleigh, yeah.
But it's Kayleigh,
it's
okay.
Kayleigh. Sometimes he calls me Kayla. My other grandfather calls me Kayleigh sometimes. No, nobody gets my name right.
And that's what I said. I won't mess it up because my niece's name is Kayla.
That's
so
right.
Kayleigh.
That's right.
And we're good.
You just combine the two,
right.
Kayla and Kayleigh.
Kayleigh, and
Kayleigh.
I'll get it. We're going to stop saying it because I'll mess it up again. So I got it now, and we're going to stay there. I want you to tell me, I know we talked about like your dad's family, your grandparents on both sides being super supportive, which is a plus because we know a lot of people don't have that.
Absolutely.
Talk to me a little bit about, I know you said when you first realized that you felt a little different.
I started to realize it when I was around 9.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I started to think, things are different.
Mm-hmm.
Because, when you start getting to that, those preteen years,
Mm-hmm.
Girls around you are, starting to experiment with clothes
Mm-hmm.
and makeup, and puberty hits. And when my body's going through puberty and I'm watching it with the girls around me, why is that not happening to me?
Mm-hmm.
And once I kind of started to figure it out, and this is like around 2009, 2010.
Well, let me ask you this 1 second, because a thought just came to me. You're saying you notice the girls' bodies are changing in puberty, and why is that not happening to you? Mm-hmm. So at that age, because I'm thinking as a child, generally the girls are with the girls, right?
Right.
And you're seeing this happen. Where are the boys that are your age?
I was hanging out with the boys
Mm-hmm.
a little bit, but I was also hanging out with the girls.
Okay.
I was always like a pretty feminine kid.
Mm-hmm.
My mom told me that people would ask her all the time, is Kyle, is he gay?
Really?
And my mom would say, I don't know. If he is, he'll come out when he's ready.
So even in that answer, that sounds like mom might have had an inkling.
Think mom probably had a little inkling. She knew I was different from a young age, and I think that she just assumed I was gay. When I was this younger age, realizing, I think I'm a girl. Mm-hmm. Even then, I didn't really know what trans was. Mm-hmm. And, this is like around 2009, 2010. I started like doing research on the computer, and I started to, understand what it meant to be transgender. Back then, the terminology was different. Things have been more appropriated through the years. The proper term now is transgender. Back then, it was transsexual.
So it's transgender now.
Transgender. Okay. That is the politically correct term.
Okay.
So I remember it took me a couple years, to be able to talk to my mom about it. Mm-hmm. And I was like 11 or 12 at this point. I remember I would go downstairs late at night, every night, to go try to talk to her. And then I'd just sit next to her and I wouldn't say anything.
A word.
And then I'd just go right back upstairs.
You went down with a purpose.
And then I'd get scared because I knew that it was different. Mm-hmm. And I know that I'd seen kind of the way that my dad kind of interacted with, more or less the TV and the way that he talks about people. He's a really conservative guy and has some very different mindsets, that I don't really agree with.
So you've always been closer to mom?
Definitely been closer to mom.
Okay, because I was wondering.
I've tried to be close to my dad to get my dad to like me. I'll piggyback on that later on through his story, but I knew that this is stuff that dad wouldn't like. I was scared, and I remember I texted my mom. I don't know if it was over text or over Facebook or whatever. I was like 11 or 12 at the time, and I texted her, and then she came into my room.
What did you say?
She came to talk to me, and
what was your text?
I don't remember a lot from it, but back then. This is before I knew it was like, I think I'm trans, I think I'm transgender. A lot of the stuff I was looking at is talking about like sex reassignment, because that was that's what it was called then,
right?
Which is now gender confirmation, or affirming yourself with your gender identity. She came in, she talked to me, and even then, like, I didn't know. I felt embarrassed and confused. And she was like, "Are you gay?" I was like, "No, I'm not gay." She goes, "So do you like guys?" I'm like, "I don't know." She said, do you like girls? Are you lesbian? I said, I don't know.
You wasn't sure where.
I didn't know. And my mom said that she was going to find someone for me to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
And then nothing ever happened after that.
A therapist?
Nothing happened.
Okay.
And it kind of just bottled itself up for a while. I remember she would talk to me a couple times, I'd be in the kitchen or something. She'd be like, hey, are you still thinking about this? And I just I start getting so anxious. I'd be like, I don't know. I don't know.
At any point was Dad included in the conversation?
No.
Okay.
No. And, things, it just kind of bottled up, because this is something major. My body was going through a puberty that it shouldn't have, and my body was changing, and the more that happens, the more you start to think, how much further can I go back? And it just kept building up and growing up. It was a rough town I grew up in. You wouldn't think that there would be rough towns in Vermont, but
thinking quiet.
But at the time, the school I went to had a lot of problems. This was I was playing football too, and I even remember the day I told my parents hey, I'm gonna go play football. Even my dad was like, are you sure? Are you sure you really want to do that? I was like, yeah, Dad's gonna like me. I'm doing all this stuff, for Dad's attention.
But were you doing it? That's my question. Were you doing it because you wanted to do it, or were you doing it to get his attention?
I sucked at football. I hated going to practice. I was not good at it. I was backup third string.
Was it flag football or actual?
This is around 8th grade at this point, so it was actual football. But I was also a drama kid.
Okay.
I was in theater, and I was a little bit more artsy when I was younger. I was more effeminate in a lot of ways, and I was just trying to do all these things to try to fit in with the guys around me. Trying to mask myself and blend in.
Let me ask you this, as you say that. So being in school, wanting to play football, but more of a feminine in drama. I know being around kids, they gravitate to anything that's different to tease and make fun of. Did the children in your school, your peers, did they notice anything different about you? Did you meet any bullying, or were you supported in school, or it wasn't even noticed at that point?
I had some very supportive people in, the theater groups. Because that's a place where people can express themselves.
Right.
But at that point in time, even then, the school system was a little weird, because I remember I was getting bullied by kids on the football team for being in theater, and I was being bullied by some theater kids for playing football.
Okay.
There was no happy medium. And the bullying was just getting so bad with the football team especially. And it got to a point where I didn't feel safe with either group, and I quit both. I left drama and I left football, and that's when things just kind of started to get really bad. There was some threats coming from some of the kids. Called, you freaking queer in the hallways, getting pushed up against lockers and everything, getting targeted. On the practice field and everything. And I left. And things between that, the bullying, hiding who I was, not addressing it.
It's all building up now.
It all built up, and it got to a point where I couldn't hold on any longer. And, I made an attempt on my life, and it put me in, out of school for about a month. I was in an outpatient program, in this youth rehabilitation house kind of thing. They put you in there for 10 to 14 days with other kids who, some of them have drug charges or were drunk driving and everything. And I felt like I was a criminal instead of someone who needed help. And it's just the restrictions where you're in a bedroom with, you can't have anything in there. You can't be around any other people.
No
you
locked
can't touch
doors.
each other.
Yeah.
You can't hug people. Having these group therapy sessions and everything with people talking about how they just got arrested, and it's like, no, this isn't me. I need someone.
And they pull everybody together, and this is where
it doesn't work.
It has to be fixed, and that's where we need the medical field and mental health to really, really reach out and try to change this, because it's still going on today.
And the worst part about it is that I pretended I was okay so I could get out.
Mm-hmm.
And I came out even worse, and things built up again. I was okay for a couple weeks because I came back home. People were like, "Are you okay?"
The support, the love.
There was some support, but things kind of started going back to normal. And then it got bad again, and I made another attempt on my life, and this one, it resulted in me getting removed from my school system. I got expelled because I tried to take my own life at school because I couldn't bear the thought of doing it at home. And I was failed by a school system that tried to sweep it under the rug.
We're going to take a break.
Okay. So I ended up getting expelled from school because of that, because it was on grounds because I couldn't bear to do that at home, to do that to my mom. She wouldn't be able to live with herself. Yeah, and it's ironic that there's some kind of guilt that comes behind those suicidal thoughts. Like, wow, this is so much, but
I want you to hear what you said. I wanted to do it at school. I couldn't do it at home because my mom couldn't live with herself. And this is the way we think. As if you did it at home,
it would make it any better.
Like doing it at school was going to ease her pain any. But it's the ration of control in getting to say where, when. But the other thing is, even in our pain, in our darkest hour, we're always putting someone before us. It was your mom wouldn't have to clean it up. Your mom wouldn't have to find you. And she can still live there, not thinking this is where this happened.
That's what it was.
But even in the darkest hour, we are thinking, I don't want to be here, but let me make it easy for you.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
You see? But it's always, it's selfish. When you hear someone has committed suicide, you hear all oh my God, that's so selfish. And maybe it is, but you don't know the pain that's coming with that. You don't know the story behind it. And no, it's not an excuse to say that's okay. But even, like, if you really think about that, I don't want to be here anymore. I want to end my life. I want to end this pain. But before I go, my last act is to make sure I'm taking care of Mom. That in itself that's the height of someone who is so dark and desperate to stop pain, but even in pain, always helping someone else, always. So I just wanted you to hear that again.
It's one thing to think it. It's another to hear it out loud, presented to you. At the end of the day, the school failed me. I remember going to my guidance counselor, a couple times, different guidance counselors. I remember one of them said to me, because someone was making rumors about me, it, really got to me, 14, rumors get to everybody. And his response was, rumors are like feathers in a pillow. When you rip it open into the wind, they float off into the air, and you can't do anything about it. So just live with it. Even though we had the person in front of us who confessed to making those. Right. And he said, well, there's nothing we can do about it. Even like all the bullying that was going on from like kids on the football team and everything. Everything that happened there. I went to the school about it. And my principal's response was, well, we asked them and they said it didn't happen. Of course they said it didn't happen.
That's what's easier to deal with. It's easier to deal with somebody saying, I didn't say that. Because then it's like, we don't have to do any more follow-up.
Absolutely.
They didn't say it.
And they took the issue and they swept it right under the rug.
Mm-hmm. And now you're left to deal with your stuff by yourself.
After that happened, I ended up in a psychiatric unit, out of state, for 2 weeks. And, that was weird, being on a floor with a bunch of other kids my age, walking around in scrubs and, having to do like vital checks with everybody twice a day and being in these weird classes with everybody. But at the same time, there I remember coming out to some of the nurses and the doctor there, and she was able to help me come up with a plan for coming out to my parents. It didn't go over well. My doctor came out on my behalf the first time. My parents were there visiting. She asked me, she said, do you want to be in the room? And I was so scared. I said, no, I don't want to be in there. And the next time around, my dad was like, what the hell? Are you just jealous of your sister? What's going on? You're a good-looking kid. Why do you want to be a girl? It doesn't make sense. It's like, no, I don't want to be a girl. I don't want to be trans. I hate being trans. It's such a burden on my life. It's something that I've come to learn to, acknowledge and
educate me on that, because I heard you say it, and now I'm stuck. So let me repeat what I heard. You're a trans woman. And is that then and now? Do you still feel that way? Let me tell you why I'm asking.
Okay. I'm trying to think of a response to that.
So with pride and the pride community, I'm thinking you're free to be who you are. So for me, it, like, if I dissect like everything you went through, and now this is who you are by choice, and you can speak and be who you want to be, who you've always felt you were, explain to me, how could you hate it? Because when you were male, you didn't feel like yourself.
I think I hate it because of all the unnecessary struggle that came with it, everything that led up to it. When I came out to my mom the first time, over 11 years ago now, if something were to happen then, if she were to push me through to talking about it more, talking to my dad about it, then finding a therapist or someone to talk to, someone who's specialized in that, even myself, getting out of that scared moment and speaking for myself and learning how to, my life could have been completely different. But instead, I had to go through all that struggle to finally make that choice for myself to say enough is enough. And by the time I did start transitioning, I was 21. There's so many things I needed to reverse for myself. Going back on, trying to get acceptance from dad and everything. I played football. I wanted to go to college. I wanted to go to architecture school. I didn't have the grades for it because I was so depressed and anxious during high school. Like I couldn't read. I was at high reading levels throughout my time growing up, but as soon as high school hit, I couldn't concentrate.
So much other stuff.
There was so much anxiety building up in me. I couldn't read a book. I'd read a page and then read the page and then read the page, and an hour would pass. I'd be stuck on the same page because I'm so stuck in my head. And it just I fell behind in like my social studies and English classes. Math and science I did okay because I was so in touch with it. Even at my new high school, we had an architectural design class. I fell in love with it. I did so well in it, and I said, this is what I want to do.
This is it.
So, I did my math classes and my STEM classes, and that's what I wanted to do, but I couldn't get into architecture school because I didn't have the English grades.
Okay.
Because I fell behind because I couldn't concentrate on the books. So I was at a standstill. So I enlisted in the military.
Okay.
One, that's what my dad wanted me to do. That's what Dad wanted me to do. I enlisted in the Marine Corps. Dad's going to be real proud of me. And also, I wanted to take advantage of the GI Bill. They'd be able to pay for school. But, I respect the military because I come from a long bloodline with military values in my family, but I enlisted in the military for the wrong reasons, and it caught up with me. I had those anxiety issues that were not addressed, and they caught up with me when I was in boot camp. After about a month there, it really caught up because I'm dealing with anxiety. I was really depressed. I was down there for the wrong reasons. Plus, I'm starting to make some unchangeable, changes to my body, and it all caught up. So, all of that anxiety built up, while I was at boot camp, and I broke down. With boot camp with the Marine Corps, their job is to break you down. They weed out the weak from the strong, and I fit in with the weak. There were some traumatic things there that happened to me that some could consider traumatic, others not. If you think old style Marine Corps, have you ever seen Full Metal Jacket, like the beginning? That's what it was like. I was in 3rd Battalion Lima Company, in Paris Island, and that's exactly what it was like. And between everything else and those things happening, I lost it. And I told my drill instructor, like, I don't feel good. I'm anxious. I'm depressed. I think I want to kill myself. If I have to stay here, I probably will lose control, and that will happen. So I, in the middle of the night, was put into a truck, told to keep my head down between my knees, and I was brought to an off-base hospital. And I was put in there. I was just there overnight in the ER. And I remember I was sleeping, and a nurse came in and woke me up, and I remember screaming, "Get away from me, get away from me, get away from me," because I thought it was one of my drill instructors. I sat there in a psychiatric unit for 2 weeks in Beaufort, South Carolina, before they put me into separation platoon. And you know what's ironic is that one time, during those 2 weeks, I read a book. And what's ironic about it is, in that one period where it felt like life was crashing down around me, I actually read a book. And that was the last time I've read a book. And it was like a 500-page book. I don't remember the author. I don't remember the context. I just know it was some sort of murder mystery.
So this is in the hospital?
This is in the hospital.
You just decided I'm going to read a 500-page book?
It was, I read a very long book.
It took you away?
It took me away. It took me away from reality. But even then, I remember my senior drill instructor came by to check on me. Whether it was genuine or not, I don't know. The nurse came in and said, so-and-so is here. I broke down. Major anxiety attack hit. And I said, I don't want to see him. Get him out of here. Get him out of here. Get him out of here. What happened there in that squad bay, it was traumatizing for me, at least, I'm like a fragile little butterfly who can't be stepped on, because then my wings will be shattered. And, coming out of the hospital before I got sent to separation platoon, my senior was sitting down with me. He said, what are you going to tell, the psychiatrist here on base? And, XYZ. He said, that didn't happen. I said, but no, none of that happened. And I think, in hindsight, that's him saying, you better not tell him that, because that's going to get me in trouble. But then I was kind of just like racing back through my memories. I'm like, am I actually crazy? Am I losing my mind right now?
That did happen, right.
And that broke me down a little bit more.
So was he not supposed to take you to the hospital?
This is on base, so it's not necessarily a hospital. It's more or less a evaluation.
Okay.
Before getting discharged, and then being shipped over to separation platoon, where I was for about 2 weeks before they sent me to the airport and sent me back home.
So you was discharged?
Yeah, I was discharged. I was issued a recruit level separation. So it's not honorable, it's not general, it's not dishonorable, it's just separation during recruit level. So no impact on
anything
on anything for me, except I probably can't get a job as a police officer, which is okay. I don't need to follow my dad's footsteps anymore.
I never asked you this question. So you said when you came out of the hospital, you had 2 hospitalizations, and you're getting therapy. At any point were you on medication?
Yeah, I was. I've been on antidepressants and anxiety medications.
But what did they think they were? So for you, I know you said the anxiety and the depression, and just the not feeling like a male. How do they diagnose that?
At the time when things were a little different, I was diagnosed with gender identity disorder. I think that's what they call it.
I remember hearing stuff like that.
GID.
Right.
And I was diagnosed with that when I was in the hospital in New York.
Okay.
And I think that I talked about it a little bit in therapy, but it didn't really go much further than that. I was never really pushed on to a therapist or someone who specialized in trans health. It was more just bouncing around between therapist to therapist and people that just weren't really helping me much.
Okay. And then you come out.
I remember before that incident at school, I was seeing a therapist, and she told my mom, "Oh, he just needs a job. He just needs a job to keep his mind occupied." So mom was like, "Okay, you heard the therapist. You're getting a job."
And is that when military came in?
I was like 15 then.
Oh, okay.
I was really young. I'm like, no, I'm in high school.
A job?
Yeah. I was like, what am I going to do for a job? I don't have a car. I can't get anywhere. I don't know. It's just, I know my mom also wanted to help, but after every therapy session, she'd be like, what did the therapist say? What did they say? Tell me everything. And I'm like, no, it's therapy. This is one-on-one.
It's one-on-one.
If it was group therapy, you'd be in there. But I don't know, just the whole therapy system then was just broken. It was just broken. It didn't get me anywhere. I felt more anxious going to therapy than with everything else going on. And because then I haven't seen a therapist since then. I have a hard time going to see a therapist. I've gone on my phone. I've gone to make phone calls, but I get so much anxiety till today about seeing a therapist because of all of what happened when I was younger.
I will share this with you. Therapy takes time, and it takes, for some people, you get lucky and you can find someone and there's a match. Sometimes you have to go through several to make a connection. I do say, if for nothing else, and it's your terms, when you're ready, you know what you need, but to always have someone to talk to, a support system. And it took me a while, but I found a therapist that I've been with, I want to say sometime now, I want to say at least over 6 years.
Wow, that's
possibly.
incredible.
And
that's incredible.
My husband actually found him for me out of crisis.
Really?
In a hospital. And when I was released from the hospital, I was released to extensive outpatient therapy. Mm-hmm. And that was the same thing you explained.
Yeah. Yeah, just that.
Drug addicts, teens, abuse, and me. And you're sitting there taking it all in like, why am I here? This makes no sense to me. So now it's doing more damage. And that just went left. And I ended up finding this guy, and I've been with him ever since. The key with therapy, I find, is find someone that you can disclose everything without judgment, and where they can speak to you as a person, and not everything is textbook answers. Oh, you said a key word, you need to be hospitalized.
Because that's not going to help anything.
Right, because now you're going to hold back information because I know what your response is going to be. We've done it longer than they have. Mm-hmm. In most cases. So when you are holding back information and not being authentic with your story, then you can't get treated or helped. And if I'm not being treated or helped because I'm afraid of what you're going to do, you're just getting a paycheck and I'm just sitting here for no reason. So
I think that's where some of that anxiety comes from. And another, with traveling a lot, with this line of work the past couple of years, I've moved 5 times, since last March, the past 2 years, basically.
Right.
So I've tried looking into, like some of the online therapy options, but a lot of them don't take, insurance.
Right.
And it's all privatized. And they say, oh, well, you're low income. We'll discount it down to $120 a session. I can't afford $120 a session.
And 1 week I may need 3 in 1 week.
Absolutely. It's just, healthcare should not be a profit. Providers need to be able to, make their income and everything. But that's one of the problems that we have in this country is that people can't get adequate healthcare and therapy and mental health services and everything that they need because it's all for profit.
And if you don't have insurance, then who helps you?
Nobody.
You go into ER, and then you go into 24-hour hold, and then you're treated like a criminal. I know, I say that because I want you when you're ready, but I would suggest, if you can, some way, and I know you're doing the research, but that outlet, because you never know when the feelings come up, to need someone to talk to. I know it was pivotal for me, and this person I can count on at all costs, and I trust him 100%. So I just wanted to share that with you.
Well, thank you for that.
I wanna, in reading your background and your story, how about we do this? I want you to tell them how we met.
Okay.
But I also want you to start and tell, because when I looked at your story and I read your story, I was like amazed. And then when I looked at your bodybuilding pictures, I was like, well, hold up.
All of that.
I was like, what? Like this one? And yeah, we'll have them up. Yeah, okay. Like it seems like whatever you do, you go hard.
Yeah, I think my mom said that to me at one point. You go from one extreme to the other, and that's kind of how it was. I was back and forth for a while from, gotta get big. When I started working out in high school, my dad took notice. I'm like, there's Dad's attention. Let's start getting big. And he was encouraging me. He was like, hell yeah. And I was like, hell yeah, let's go. And then it would start to, sink in. Oh, what am I doing to myself?
Feels good for a while, the endorphins, right?
Right, and to this day, I still work out a little bit because, it's good for your mental health. But it got to a point where it was abusing myself by working out so much because I was trying to, I was putting on a facade. I was putting on a mask for someone that I knew that I wasn't, because I was trying to get the approval of my father.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd get big and I'd get really sad. I'm like, nope, gotta stop, gotta transition.
This is what you're doing.
Yeah. Exactly that. It was like a pulsing wave. And then I'd stop working out. I'd start getting like effeminate again. I'm like, I'm gonna start to transition. My dad would take notice. He doesn't like it. Need dad's love. Start going back again. And it was just back and forth like that. And I remember I was 19 and I had stopped working out for a couple months. I was wearing a little bit of makeup here and there. My hair was getting a little bit longer. And, I came out to my mom again. I told her, I said, I'm going to start transitioning. At this point, it wasn't, hey, I think I'm going to transition. Hey, Mom, I'm trans. It was, no, I'm transitioning. This is, I'm going through with it. And, my mom got really scared. And when my mom gets scared, it's either fight or flight. And she kind of fights it a little bit. She was saying, you're rushing into this. It's too fast. You need to go talk to somebody first. You need to talk with me and your dad to make sure it's okay. I'm like, no, that's not make sure it's okay. Like, I've known this at this point for, 10 years now. I got to do it. And, I got my prescription and my mom said, well, you need to talk to your dad. And I said, I'll talk to him when I'm ready. And then she went and talked to him on my behalf without telling me. And he freaked out. He said, if you start those hormones, you'll find yourself on the street. You won't have a place here. Things were just different. He was disappointed in me. And I don't think that he liked me anymore. And that's kind of from there on, I spent a long time trying to, get his attention. Coming back from boot camp was terrible. About a week after I came home, I lost my best friend. She had taken her own life. Her name was Brianna. She was beautiful. I loved her. I still do. And
Brianna was from your hometown.
She wasn't from my hometown, but I met her when I got to my new high school.
Okay.
She was a really sweet girl. She cared about people, and she did a lot for other people before giving anything for herself. And I felt a lot of guilt after, because I felt like I wasn't there when she needed me to be. I knew that she was hurting. But I didn't know how much, or I didn't pick up on how much. So that happened.
And that didn't help you at all?
No, it definitely didn't help my mental health. It was a rough time. I'm trying to figure out, where I'm going with my life. Should I actually be here? What's going on? And that's kind of where this back and forth trend between bodybuilding and getting big, for dad's attention, kind of set in. And then it was overwhelming, and realized, no, that's not what I'm supposed to be doing. I should be coming out and starting my transition. And then I'd fall down, I'd start getting effeminate. Dad hates me. Start working out again. And it was back and forth like that for a while.
Shifting. Yeah.
And I ended up starting, dating this girl who was bi, and somehow it came up in conversation. And she said that you should come out, like, because I had said to her, I think I'm trans, and she's like, do you think you're trans, or are you actually trans? I'm like, I'm actually trans. Excuse me. And she, she encouraged me to, come out and start to transition. And that was a really awkward phase of my life.
Yeah, so I'm going to question.
Okay.
She's bi?
Yeah. She's bi, yeah.
She dates male, female?
Yeah. Yeah, and right after, or I guess I should say right before, I met her. She was dating a girl for a long while.
And then you was just owning your
I was
trans.
Kyle.
You was Kyle, but you didn't know which way you were going yet.
Yeah, I was Kyle when I met her. I had a beard. I was working out like really heavy.
I can't look at you and picture any of this, right? Other than because I saw the pictures, but you didn't have the beard in the picture.
Sometimes I look back at some of those pictures and I'm like, who even is that? Like, I don't know him.
Gorgeous in all of them, seriously.
Well,
it's Kyle, definitely. I know turned heads.
Yeah. Yeah, what's funny is that now, a lot of girls, like, looking back on that, they're like, oh, you were so cute. I would have climbed you like a tree. I'm like, where were you? And I'm like, where were you? Because I was lonely a lot because people thought I was gay.
Even as Kyle,
even
bodybuilding,
even bodybuilding Kyle, people thought I was gay.
Okay, pause. There's no way.
Yeah.
You can't. Well, let me stop there and rephrase that, because that's me doing a judgment, which a lot of people do. But that picture is like a magic mic.
Ooh.
It's like that whole, and I'm going to tell them. So, because we're talking about looks and appearances, right? Mm-hmm. And so we're both flight attendants with United Airlines. And I'm on a flight, and it's my first time meeting Kayleigh. And prior to me working in the airlines, I worked for major designers for years. And so I'm always looking at fashion, and I'm always looking at skin and people. And I just kept saying to her, wow, your skin, your cheekbones, because her hair was shorter then. And so you could really see her cheekbones. I think you had on the scarf that we wear on our neck, and you had on a dress, and I'm looking at her cheekbones. And I just kept saying it like obsessive, because and like your skin reminded me of Charlize Theron. So I just kept saying it. Now, if you remember, we flew with another flight attendant. This is my first time seeing you, meeting you, everything. So when I go to the back, and I didn't share this with you, she says to me, are you trying to be funny? That's not nice. And I'm like, what are you talking about? No, I'm not. How am I trying to be funny? Her skin is beautiful. I guess she had already read your story.
Okay.
So she thought I was being facetious and keep saying it. And I'm like, no. And she's like, you haven't read Kayleigh's story? I'm like, what story? So when I had no clue, and I felt bad after that.
Aww.
And shortly after, you came to the back galley, and I think I was eating, and now I don't want to say anything because I feel like a jerk. Like, I hope she doesn't think I was being mean.
I thought you were just flattering me.
No, I really loved your skin because of the cheekbones. And remember, I kept saying, you could really do print work. You could really do print work. So you knew your story. She knew the story. I'm just a flight attendant coming on, thinking like, oh, and you were fairly new. So I had no clue. And that's the story of how we met. And I just want to share that the reason that I came to wanting to talk to you is you shared how pivotal United was in your coming out as far as transitioning.
Absolutely.
And this is something I've always wanted to do because of my struggle, and I wanted to share and help. And you came to mind because you was so, in your storyline, talk so much about how much it helped you and it being a family. And I started wondering, how are you doing? What happens to Kayleigh now that this part of her family is gone? And so that's why I reached out to you. So I just wanted to share like how we met, because we're talking about looking at you now, and you're telling me you had a beard, and the Kyle picture that I saw, and coming to now, no, we were at the young lady you were dating. That was by, And
yeah.
okay.
So she had me convinced that I should transition. I was like, I have my support. So I jumped right on it. But the problem is that I jumped into it too quick. I think, that going from one extreme to another. I went from working out pretty heavy and everything to, next thing I know, I'm starting hormones and everything, and she wants me to, present female and everything around her. Not a good looking female at that time. I was.
'Cause it's the beginning?
Yeah, it was just the beginning. I mean, like, yeah, I could look cute, but if I went out, people would be like, "Is that
What's going on there?"
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Awkward. So we had our own issues with the relationship, which it got toxic. It got to a point where I packed up everything because we were living together. I packed up everything in the middle of the day, and I went home. And with that, I immediately pulled myself off hormones.
Did you go back in Dad's house?
Just going back in Dad's house. Guess what I did? Start getting big again. And I got the strongest I'd ever been. The strongest I'd ever been. I got really big, and I was training aggressively. Dad's looking, but it still wasn't enough.
Right. But like I say, when you see the pictures, like just sitting here talking, no one's going to really understand. But when you see the pictures, when I say like full on just body, and to this petite lady here, I say Magic Mike. Well, for me, Michael Strahan, because I'm just like New York Giants all the way. But you look, and we look at people, like I said, what does mental illness look like? It has no face. Because you'll look at somebody and that's not what you come up with when you see that picture. You don't come up with that story, and you surely don't come up with someone that you think is struggling on the inside. That picture screams of confidence and strength. And to know the cycle, the roller coaster ride, all the emotions inside that you were struggling with and battling with, and to know that's not even what you wanted. That you wanted that because part of mental illness, you want to be heard, you want to be understood,
and you want to be seen.
Want to be seen. I say it all the time. And the person you want to see you the most is only seeing what they want to see. So you're creating this facade for them, but it's not who you want.
No,
and
it was so damaging. It was so damaging. And this last time around, I remember, things got really bad for me again. I'd spend most nights after work sitting in my car in the parking lot, bawling my eyes out, crying, driving home crying. On my days off, I'd go to the gym, work hard, and I'd go out in my car and cry. I'd cry in the shower because I knew that I was doing so much damage to my body. And every day I think, at what point am I going to get to a stage where I can't turn back, when enough is enough? I was so desperate at one point to try to, just push through. I almost started taking steroids. I was just like, gotta get bigger. Because even then, while I wanted to go back and, start transitioning and everything, at the same time, it's like, no, I need to get bigger. And I look in the mirror, I'm like, I'm too small, I'm too small, I'm too small. And even now, looking back, I'm like, damn, I was yoked. But then in my head,
You wasn't big enough?
I wasn't big enough. It just didn't seem like enough. And it was so toxic, so overwhelming. Obviously, I never got to the point where I started taking steroids or anything, but I was taking a lot of supplements. I was on pro hormones, I was on testosterone boosters, I was taking a lot of creatine, packing the protein. I was eating around 4,500 calories a day, just trying to keep up. And it just
And I look at this frame and I just can't even imagine.
It's crazy to think how far I've come in just the past 2 years alone. And, right now, about a year ago is that point where, or I should say 2 years ago, 2018, it was the point where enough was enough. I remember driving home one day, and I wrote this in the story that you saw, where I ended up playing chicken with a semi on the road at 3:00 in the morning, driving home from work, and something pulled me out of the way, some force. I remember sitting on the side of the road crying.
So you wanted to have a collision with another car. That's all you saw.
I wanted to go. And something pulled me out of the way. And I said that's it. It's now or never. I was left with an ultimatum, and my choices were to transition, and I chose life. This time around, I didn't tell anybody. I told my sister, and I started.
How was she handling all of this? Seeing her brother go to lifting to not lifting to lifting to being who you want to be.
She was worried about me.
And what was your relationship like?
Oh, she's my best friend.
Okay.
I love my sister.
What's the age difference?
About 2.5 years.
Okay.
So we're pretty close.
Okay.
And she's my biggest fan. She's my cheerleader. And she had known about me, starting to transition, before, even years before then, when I was 19. She was supporting me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you, Ashley.
I love you. But this time around, I remember I was sitting in the parking lot for the pharmacy, and I went inside, and I said, Can I pick up a prescription? They said, sure, what's the last name? And I gave them my name. They're like, you haven't picked this up in let's see, what's June to December, about 5 months, 6 months. And I was like, I know. They said, okay. Right. So they rang it, they put it together for me. And, I took my pill, I put my patch on, and I remember Snapchatting my sister. It was December 7th. 2018. That is my parents' anniversary, and that's the day I went to boot camp. So December 7th has a lot of meanings for me. There's a lot of important dates wrapped around then.
December 7th.
It just happened to be on December 7th. It
wasn't a date you picked it.
I didn't pick it.
Okay.
It just happened to be that. That was the day that I decided, now we're doing it.
Okay.
And that's where we start moving into, role as a flight attendant.
Well, let me ask you this, because so you said it, but I don't know what that entails. So when you're transitioning and doing is it hormone therapy?
Yeah, hormone therapy.
Is the patch a part of the therapy?
So the patch is estradiol.
Okay.
So that's my estrogen, and then my pill is spironolactone. It's a diuretic, but it also works as a testosterone blocker.
And when you're doing this, what type of doctor are you seeing as you're doing this?
I'm seeing a trans health specialist / an endocrinologist.
And they how often? So once you start, you put the patch on.
It's a transdermal patch, so I change that out twice weekly.
Okay.
And I take the pill.
Does placement matter?
I place it down on my lower abdomen.
But is that where it has to go, or do they tell you it can be anywhere?
It can go there. It can go on your butt. I kept it up here on the upper abs for a bit, but I'm noticing I'm getting the best results down here on the lower ab.
Okay, and you take that in conjunction with the pills.
With the pills, and 2 months ago, my doctor started me on progesterone.
Okay.
Which is another female hormone.
Now, is that something you have to do now for the duration of your life?
Once I have affirmation surgery, I won't need to take the testosterone blocker because, there's not going to be any testosterone producing organs after that procedure.
And now, what's the procedure called?
Gender confirmation surgery or affirmation.
Affirmation
surgery. Yeah.
And are you slotted for a date for that?
I don't have a date slotted yet. So my insurance requires me to be female presenting for a certain period of time. This winter, I'll be eligible for it. I'll probably come to New York.
Okay.
One of the best.
Is
doctors.
your doctor here?
My current doctor is in Denver.
Okay.
But she just monitors like my hormone levels and everything.
How often do you check in when you're on this treatment?
Starting off, I was going every 3 months, so that way they could monitor my hormone levels and check my blood and everything.
Okay.
And then it went to 6 months, and it's kind of been around there, like 6 to 8 months.
Okay. And have you encountered any complications?
None.
Blessed.
None.
Good for you.
Other than that, I'm just impatient. I want everything over.
Now.
I want it overnight.
That's the go hard.
Yeah.
That's the go hard or go home, right? No.
Yeah. That's my competitive side. Right. It's just like I want to win. I want to get it done now.
Okay.
But girls got to learn to be patient. It's a process.
It is.
And that's how I've really treated this time coming out. So when I started, taking the patch and everything again, I didn't run home and shave my beard off. I think I still had my beard for probably about a good month. And I just...
Were you nervous when you first put the patch on and had to start the pills, or were you more excited?
I was more relieved.
Okay.
There wasn't much excitement. It was more just being relieved. So I kept the beard for a while. In fact, I interviewed with United, my video interview with a beard.
Okay.
Yeah. And I interviewed with United.
How did you decide Airlines
that's right.
for your career? How did that come about?
I, at the time, was working as a ramp supervisor with another airline. And I was trying to put a plan together for myself. Because if I was going to come out, I didn't want to do it at home. I needed to find a way to leave. And my cousin, who is a United Airlines flight attendant, posted a job posting on his Facebook. United's hiring.
Okay.
So I messaged him.
We all do that so people can stop asking for buddy passes.
Yeah,
it goes with a saying. Now you can get your own buddy passes. They're hiring. Yeah.
Go take care of your own flight benefits before you get rid of mine.
Yes.
So I messaged him and I was like, "Can you tell me more about this?" And I'd been with United before I was with this other airline, so I was familiar with like Equal, who's United's business resource group for LGBTQ plus employees. I was familiar with where they stood on equality and how they have scored so well with the Diversity Inclusion Index and with the Human Rights Campaign. I know that they are an inclusive company. So after talking with my cousin, I knew that if I was going to come out, I was going to do it as a United Airlines flight attendant because it would put me with a work group and a family where I would be seen, I would be supported, I would be loved, and given all the resources I need to transition comfortably and safely. I knew that I wouldn't be able to do it with the position I was in. I needed to start fresh. So I was determined. It had to be done. I got my resume all done up. I applied for the job. I busted butt through the video interview and I got invited to the in-person. And I was so nervous, but I gave it my all. And I got hired on the spot down in Houston. They wanted me there a week later for training. I couldn't get down there a week later. So I went down 2 weeks later. Okay. I gave my notice as soon as I got back. It was all working out.
Really fast.
It was all working out. And, by this point in time, like my face was shaved a little bit. I hadn't cut my hair in a couple months, so it was getting a little long on the sides. And I remember getting down to training, and I had already been in touch with Equal, through this entire process.
I learned about Equal through you.
That's wonderful.
Your story.
And everybody, should, be in touch with our business resource groups. Even if it doesn't pertain to you, know what your business resource groups are. That way, if anybody does have something that comes up, you can say, hey, have you heard of Equal? Hey, have you heard of Unite? Just giving people resources and having them understand that there's people here that are here to listen to you, give you resources that you need, and they're going to help you.
Right.
So I had been in touch with folks from Equal, from the moment that I sent in my application. My cousin was basically like my liaison and reaching out to people. Without his help, a lot of this wouldn't have happened so smoothly.
Okay.
So he reached out to Equal, and I was talking to them through, before going down for my interview, and then after I've been hired, and they were asking me like, okay, so tell us what you need. Do you need your own room? Do you need any special accommodations? How should you be addressed? Is there anything we should be looking for? I said no, because I don't want to take, I don't want to put too much attention on myself.
Yeah, people are going to ask questions.
I don't want to draw attention to myself, because I need to make it through training. Because you know how hard training is.
Yeah.
It's if you screw up once, you're gone. That's it.
And the thing is, that's when you're bonding with people. You have to make a connection to get through. You need a support.
Absolutely.
And if you're in your room by yourself and everyone else is paired up, why did you get your own room?
Right.
It starts that target right off the bat.
Absolutely.
So that was smart.
And I knew that was going to happen. Why is Kyle in the room by himself?
Right.
What's going on with that guy?
And who does he know?
Yeah, who does he know? I didn't need any of that.
Right.
So I told him, I said, I'm starting hormones. I've been on it for X amount of time. My hair is going to grow while I'm in training. It's not going to be like super long or anything, but it's not going to be like the most presentable, because it's not going to be shortcut the way that they
above
want it
the
down
collar,
there.
right? The guidelines.
The back of my hair was getting down below, and I said, I want to make sure that my body's not going to change in a way that's too distracting. Sure enough, while I'm down there, my nipples are starting to puff up, so it's like no more t-shirts. I had to wear sweaters every day.
Okay.
Or else people are going to like,
what's happening over there?
Good.
You want to talk to me about something?
You lactating?
You want to share?
So yeah, and I didn't tell anybody while I was down there until the very end, because once I knew I was making it through training, I'm gonna start telling someone here or there. But I was determined to make it through training, and I did. So once I came out of training, I got to base, and Equal was like, so when do you want to come out? We'll put you in touch with HR. We'll give you everything you need. And I said, well, I'm not comfortable yet, because I want to come out when I'm comfortable. I don't want to come out just to come out.
Right.
So I don't want to like come out and then transition to a new uniform and like looking like, Kyle.
He wasn't ready. Right.
So I waited a little bit. I think I still came out a little earlier than I would have liked, but it was a point where it's like, I'd been on hormones for over 6 months at that point.
Okay.
And
you came out earlier because
my sister had asked me, what do you want for your birthday? This was back in May. And I said, all I want for my birthday is to come out. So I did.
Okay.
I came out on my birthday.
And you was with United already?
I was with United. I remember I wrote up my whole post and everything for Facebook about coming out, and I was on the shuttle on my way to LaGuardia at like 4:00 in the morning. I posted it before I got on the plane. I put it in airplane mode, put it in my pocket. I was like, okay, I'm not looking at that. And I think I'd put it on the flight attendant page, Gigi.
Okay.
I'd put it on there, and that's where like a lot of people had seen it, because and that wasn't like an attention grabbing thing. It was okay.
It was a release for you.
It was a release, but also like, hey, there's a bunch of people in base who I've been flying with and all of a sudden they're probably going to see something that's a little different, because, then it's like I didn't necessarily look like how I did 8 months before then, jacked up and everything, but people had seen the Kyle that was presented to them, longer hair, super smooth skin, chiseled eyebrows and everything, though, looking like a real femboy.
Right.
But that was my way of coming out to the work group.
Okay.
And that one just kind of like blew up, and that's where it started. That's where my storytelling started. So I came out, and it went flawlessly. I had support from just about everybody in my life except for my dad and his mom.
At this point, you're living closer to, because you were based in Jersey.
Yeah, I was based in Jersey.
But Dad still wasn't having any part of it.
Yeah, and physically, I hadn't even talked to my dad for about a month and a half before I even came out. That was back in April. And, my sister basically was like telling my mom, I went home, because I was moving down here to Jersey. And, I only took some stuff with me. She's like, what about all your clothes? And like, get rid of it. Like, you can't get rid of all the clothes. And my sister had to like sit down with her and say, no,
so they haven't seen you. They hadn't seen you then.
No, I'd seen my mom and everything.
Right.
This is before I'd come out. About a month and a half before then. And my sister was like, no,
he doesn't need it.
Kyle's coming out.
Right.
Like, you need to learn to accept it. And to love her, and just give her support. So my mom kind of just backed off and realized that she couldn't be in mommy mode anymore, where she was trying to be protective. Because really, that's why she kind of held back so much. It's because she was scared. She was scared for me. She was scared of the world, and she was scared of
what that looks like for you.
What that looks like for me, but also like my dad's reactions. That's what she was really scared of. So I told her on the 16th, I said, I'm coming out tomorrow. So I'm not calling anybody. I'm not making it a fanfare or anything, because I was just separating myself. If I needed to get away from my entire family for a year and not talk to anybody, I was going to, because I didn't want family to hold me back anymore. So my mom, she owned up to it, and she started making phone calls. Everybody that she hadn't told over the years, she said, this has been going on. This is an actual thing.
We are. Good for her.
She only got negative backlash from one person, which was my dad's mom, and I was an abomination to Christ and everything of the sort. She's very religious, which I respect religion. I believe in faith. I feel like we should have faith in a higher power, but we shouldn't use that faith to discriminate.
That was well said.
There's no place for hate. And when someone uses faith and the almighty power as an excuse to present bias, that's uncalled for in my book. So I didn't even talk to her since well before then anyways, because I don't really care for the woman.
Sorry, Nana.
Yeah, sorry, Marianne. So I could care less.
How are you now with your dad?
I still haven't talked to him. No, my mom said, I'm not gonna fight the kid or anything, but I don't want him here in the house. I said, good. I don't need to be there.
Okay. And life goes on.
And you know what? He's one of the two people that has an actual issue with me coming out and transitioning, and fails to see that his son was actually his daughter this entire time. That's his problem. And I realized very quickly that I shouldn't spend my time dwelling on it and making it mine. Because I did have so many people in my life that were going to support me and give me the love and everything I needed.
Your dad, in my opinion, I think as so many, it's foreign to him, and it's something he doesn't understand. And age sometimes has a lot to do with that, and his upbringing. And so, I'm in no way speaking for him, but I know other people that they don't how do I put it? We can't penalize them for what they don't know and they don't understand. Mm-hmm. But what we can do is you can try to open up, and if that's the thing, if they're not willing to open up to try to learn, then there's nothing else you can do.
Absolutely.
It's something he may not understand, and for a man to have a male child and that child says, I'm female, it would be a hard pill to swallow because they don't understand it. Mm-hmm. But that is not your job. You can say, I want to teach you, I want to help you understand. But if that wall is up saying, I'm not accepting this, then your job is done.
And he, can't use the excuse that he didn't see it coming.
Right.
I tried to come out quite a few times over the years. And even now, I don't speak to him directly, but I'll ask my sister, like, does he ask about me? Mm-hmm. What does he say?
Because something in here still wants it.
Yeah. Part of me still wants dad's love.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that'll ever come back. And my sister says, she tries to educate him, corrects him.
Is there pamphlets, something that she can just start leaving around? That if he sees it?
She probably could. I tried that when I was younger.
Because I don't think...
Resources that have been given to me by, like the nurses and stuff. Back
the
in
literature
those
packets they have. Yeah. And I'm thinking, I don't know if I watch too many movies and this might work. But in my mind, I'm thinking, trying to talk a one-on-one may not be accepted, but if something's on the counter and no one's around when it's on the counter, maybe you'll pick it up and go read it. Or maybe he's secretly trying to find out or educate himself, and maybe one day, I want to get to know you better and understand.
Maybe that day will come.
You can never say never, and we're all at a point where we all can learn. So I wouldn't say give up hope. I wouldn't say stop living, waiting for it. But don't just say it'll never happen, because you never know what can happen. I wanted you to, I know we touched on it, but I wanted you to walk me through. In part of your story, I read too, the dealing with TSA, the dealing with the name change, and people that were in your class or people that knew you as Kyle and they see you now. How does that work and how does that make you feel? You can enlighten me on what's that like when people see you that knew you. Well, let me say this. No one can see Kyle and then see Kayleigh. I'm sure people may have even walked past you not recognizing you.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, it's happened. So with like TSA and everything early on, before I had gotten all my IDs changed and everything, carried over, with the way that known crew member and getting through security as a crew member, all of your documents have to be in line before the company changes your name over completely. Okay. So up until January of this year, I was still flying with all of my documents that said Kyle. My name legally changed in September of last year. I got my new license. I got my new passport. I got my birth certificate changed. So as far as the state of Vermont is concerned, I was born female as Kayleigh Grace Scott on May 17th, 1997. They changed your birth certificate? My birth certificate has been amended. And
I didn't know that was a thing.
So it reflects my gender and my full name.
Is there a part on the form that says you once were?
No.
So it's just as if Kyle didn't exist. I never knew that. So I know you said your ID as of September 2019 all said Kayleigh.
All except my airman certificate.
Okay.
So HR needed my airman certificate with the FAA to be changed over. And that was the hardest thing to get done. You know, it was a long process. It took a while. So I'd be going through KCM some days, most days actually, and, you know, looking something like this, and I'd hand them an ID with me with a beard on it, and then they'd be like, I'm like, yeah. And I go, okay. And then sometimes they'd say, I need a supervisor. And then they call more people over, and then more people over, and more people over, and there'd be like 7 or 8 people.
And you're going to work.
I'm
this
going
is the
to
start
work.
of your day.
This is going through KCM, and they're all gawking at it and like, no, that's not. I'm like, yeah, guys, it is. Can we like stop making a, you know, a festival out of it? You know, I'm not some sideshow attraction. You know, don't pay 25 cents to come and look at, you know, the trans girl standing in front of you, and oh, can't believe your eyes.
How did that inside? How do you feel now? Now, pull that together and push it down like it didn't happen and get on a flight.
The first time that happened, I was like, ooh, that's a little flattering. But then once it started becoming a trend, I was like, this is getting really annoying. It's kind of hurtful. You know, I'm all for bringing awareness and educating, but I don't want to be some, you know, sideshow piece.
Right. But with the understanding of what our industry is and people trying to get through TSA. So I can understand a portion of it as, especially if that person is the first time they're seeing you and like, now what do I do?
Right. That's one thing, you know, if you call over a supervisor and like they're like, hey, I haven't done anything like this before. I'm like, okay, cool. Most of the time I'd tell them, you know, I'd flip over my crew badge and like match the names, you know, because back at the crew badge is your legal name and then the front is your preferred name. So they'd be looking at it and like back of the badge.
Or I would think even simply, if a supervisor has encountered that and you are Newark based, they have meetings every morning. So put it in your notes. Every morning at the TSA meeting, we do have a few.
Right.
So just if you have it, please note. Or they can write your name down.
Because you know what? Newark wasn't a problem. Newark was fine. I loved coming through Newark. You know, I knew everybody.
That's a part of why, a major part of why I wanted to sit down with you. Because just as with your story and thousands other, including race, and what we deal with, especially right now, in the height of it, of what we are dealing with. If people can just see people for people and accept them for who they are, period, point blank, end of story.
Absolutely. And that's the way that it should be.
It would fix so much stuff.
If the world could just learn to love, and if
you don't have to like me.
Gender equality and you know just basic human rights weren't controversial, we'd be in a much better place. Just let people love.
I think so many people
at the end of the day, love will always win. That's it. There's no arguing it. Love will always win. Let people be. Let them live.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, as the saying goes, what I eat don't make you shit. To put it point, I didn't put it as eloquent as you, but that's what it boils down to.
Yeah.
What I'm doing over here, if this ain't what you into, this is not what you're into. But you don't have to be mean to me. You don't have to be hateful to me and degrading to me. Just show me respect, because I'm going to show you the same respect you show me. And that's the end of it. I'm not saying embrace who I am. You may have your standoffs because you may have never dealt with a Black person in your community, or where you grew up, or how your family raised you, or you just, and then you judge it based on what you see on TV, right? Do you know me? And it's the same. It's equality.
Absolutely.
This is what makes you feel great and look great. And this is what's making you happy. Tell me, how would that affect me, that you're happy?
I hope it radiates.
You see what I'm saying? So if I'm allowing you to be who you are, and I'm allowing you to be happy, And allowing is the worst word. I'm accepting you as you are. I think that would make me more peaceful. Because, I'm just talking to you, as the person, the lady, the feminine.
Person that's right in front
That's
of you.
it. That's it. Anything beyond that doesn't affect me. It doesn't move me one way or the other. And with that said, I want you, anything that you want to add that I may have missed, but I will ask you this, a message of hope. There is a young boy, a young girl, a young person out there that feels like they're not seen, they're not loved, they're not heard, and they feel alone. Please share a message of hope, and anything that I haven't addressed that you feel is important, please share.
The story that I tell is one of conquer and change. It's that your time in the closet can be dark and scary, but it doesn't have to be. Come out. Be counted. Be seen. Be heard. And be loved. To the parents and friends and family out there, as Kimberly said, all that it affects you is making sure that your children and your loved ones are loved. Just that. Let them love, let them be. There's no other way to explain it. I hope that y'all can realize that, people who might be gay or bi or trans or queer or pansexual or however or whoever they identify as, these are normal everyday people in your life. They're your friends, they're your family, they're your coworkers. And y'all see my pictures, this bodybuilding guy that you would never expect to be the girl sitting in front of you today. We're normal everyday people in your everyday lives. And I promise you, those who knew me, 2 years ago, even, when I was in flight attendant training, I'm the same person I am today. I just look a little different.
It's a different package.
The only thing that's, really different about me is that I'm happy now. And that I'm not full of as much anxiety and pain and holding back from who I actually am. If anything, it's made me a better person, I think. And that's just what it comes down to. Just let people be. Let them be.
Well said. Well said. I want to thank everyone who has stood by Kayleigh, who has supported Kayleigh, and who has helped her along her journey. A special thank you to United Airlines for the inclusion that Kayleigh needed to make this transition. And hopefully in the future, everyone can feel a part of the inclusion, all groups. But a job well done, so thank you. I want to first end with thanking you because you taught me a lot, and it's messages that I can share. When I don't understand things, to not judge, but to ask a question and understand better. I really did learn a lot today, so thank you.
Of course. My goal is to educate and
you did
to bring the realness of someone being trans to light. Like you said, thank you to United Airlines played an instrumental role in my transition. Without their the impact that they put on to my life, there would be no Kayleigh today. I thank United, and while I hate the struggles that Kyle went through, because of those struggles, Kayleigh lives today. And it's weird putting it together like they're two different people. I'm the same person. But to me, it almost feels like two different people, because that's not that scared lost boy anymore.
For those of you who don't understand, and who think this is odd or what, I don't get it. It's okay to not get it. The problem lies when you don't want to be educated and you don't want to learn and you don't want to try to understand somebody that is a little different than you. So please take the time to really watch this and listen to what's being taught and said and shared, and open up your minds and your hearts just a little bit to soften yourself so that you can understand things just a little bit better. This is Kimberly Nichols with Something's Coming Up, and I thank you for sitting, standing, driving, watching, and listening to this. Please share, like, subscribe. Something's Coming Up on Facebook, on YouTube, and official Something's Coming Up on Instagram. Thanks for being with us. Share, like, and follow. Thank you. Thank you, Kayleigh. No, stop. How did I get all the way through it? Okay, wait. And I just want to say again, thank you so much, Kayleigh. This means a lot.
Thanks for having me here, Kimberly. I'm glad I could tell my story.